There is a moment in any long journey through uncertain terrain when the path you have been walking, the one that seemed to keep dissolving just ahead of your feet, suddenly holds. The ground does not announce itself. There is no ceremony. You simply take one more step in the direction you have been moving, trusting the same way you have been trusting for days, and you realize that something beneath you is solid, that the fog you have been walking through has not disappeared entirely, but has shifted enough that you can see the shape of what you are standing inside. That is today, April 12, 2026. The moment when Mars and Neptune meet exactly at 2 degrees of Aries, and something that has been approaching for weeks, for months, in some cases for years, arrives. Not with noise, not with the dramatic announcement that the human nervous system keeps expecting from transformation, but with the particular quality of stillness that is really not stillness at all. It is depth. It is the recognition that the fire you thought was going out was simply moving underground to find a different and more honest fuel source. And now it has found it. You have been inside something. If you have been paying attention to your own interior weather over the past weeks and months, you already know this. There has been an unusual quality to the energy available to you during this period. Things that used to motivate you have felt less persuasive. Directions you were moving in confidently have required more energy to maintain. Not because you have become weaker or less capable, but because the motivational landscape itself has been undergoing a restructuring that is more significant than most people realize while they are inside it. That restructuring completes a crucial chapter today. Today is not the end, but it is the peak of a particular kind of initiation. And what you do with what the sky is offering in these hours will inform the direction of a cycle that does not close again for 2 years. Your soul chose this lifetime with purpose. Your birth chart is the map. Every planet, every placement, every angle in your natal chart tells a story, one written in the stars long before you took your first breath. This is your story, decoded with precision and delivered with soul. A deeply personal astrology reading crafted exclusively for you, using the exact moment and place of your birth as its foundation. Your cosmic identity, your soul's focus area, hidden patterns and karmic themes, your 2026 forecast month by month, and a personal message from the universe. Delivered as an audio reading and a PDF report to your inbox within 48 hours. The link is below. Mars and Neptune conjoin at 2 degrees of Aries on April 12, 2026. The exactness of this conjunction matters. In astrology, the exact degree is the moment of peak intensity, the moment when 2 planetary forces are not simply close enough to influence each other, but are fully merged, operating as a single principle for the space of these hours before the faster-moving planet begins to separate. Mars is the faster planet here. Neptune moves so slowly that it will hold its position in these early degrees of Aries for years. Mars, by contrast, is passing through. It entered Aries on April 9th, walked directly toward Neptune, and today it reaches the point of complete overlap. The Sabian symbol for 2 degrees of Aries, the degree where this conjunction perfects, is a comedian entertaining a group. This is not a frivolous image. The comedian is the figure in any culture who tells the deepest truths under cover of something that appears to be lightness. The comedian says the thing that the room cannot bear to hear directly and makes it bearable by framing it as play. There is wisdom in this image for today. What is being revealed to you at this conjunction is real. The truth arriving is genuine, but it may come through a channel that does not look the way you expected truth to look. It may come through something that feels almost too simple, too light, too obvious. Do not dismiss it for that reason. The simplest revelations are often the ones that carry the most weight once you actually let them land. Mars conjunct Neptune in Aries has not happened in any living person's memory. Neptune takes approximately 164 years to complete a full orbit of the zodiac. The last time Neptune occupied the early degrees of Aries was in the 1860s. The last time Mars conjoined Neptune in this sign was in the spring of 1862. That was 164 years ago. No person alive has ever experienced this transit in this sign before. Whatever is happening inside you today is not something your personal history has a template for. You are in genuinely new territory, and the part of you that keeps reaching for familiar maps and finding that they do not quite apply to the terrain you are moving through is reaching for them because it does not yet know that no familiar map was ever going to cover this ground. This is important to understand, not as a source of anxiety, but as a source of permission. Permission to stop measuring what is happening against what has happened before. Permission to recognize that the unfamiliar quality of this period is not a symptom of something gone wrong, but a confirmation that you are moving through something that requires you to develop new instruments of navigation. And those instruments are being given to you right now, in these hours, at this exact conjunction. Saturn is also in the early degrees of Aries, positioned at approximately 7 degrees, close enough to this conjunction to be part of the larger story without being part of the exact event. Saturn in Aries is the principle of disciplined beginning, of the self that is building something honest from the ground up, refusing to lay a single stone on a foundation that cannot hold it. The presence of Saturn in this sign throughout these months has been providing a structural counterweight to Neptune's dissolving quality. Where Neptune has been softening the edges of your identity and your ambition, Saturn has been asking which edges actually needed to be softened and which structures were genuinely worth keeping. The result of those two forces operating simultaneously in the sign of the self has been a kind of deep spring cleaning that most people have experienced as a combination of clarity and disorientation depending on the day. Today, with Mars arriving at Neptune's exact position, Mars also makes itself felt in relation to Saturn. Mars is moving towards Saturn as well, with an exact conjunction between these two planets coming later in the month. But even now, with Mars between the two outer planets, both the Neptunian dissolving and the Saturnian structuring are activated. The action that is available today is not impulsive action. It is not the kind of Aries fire that burns bright and fast and exhausts itself before it has accomplished what it set out to accomplish. It is something more considered, action that has been shaped by vision, motion that has been honest about what it is willing to leave behind. Pluto in Aquarius forms a sextile to this conjunction. Pluto has been in Aquarius for several years now, doing a long, slow transformation of collective power, collective intelligence, and the systems through which human beings understand themselves in relation to each other and to the larger forces that shape their world. A sextile is an aspect of opportunity. It does not push, it offers. And what Pluto in Aquarius is offering today, in its sextile to Mars conjunct Neptune in Aries, is access to a depth of transformative power that most people cannot reach through effort alone. The sextile suggests that the fire meeting the dream today is not happening in a vacuum. It is happening inside a larger current of collective transformation, and what you arrive at personally today is contributing to something that extends beyond your individual life into the territory of what humanity is collectively learning to become. The moon on April 12, 2026 is in Aquarius in its waning crescent phase, illuminated at approximately 31%. This is a moon that has been diminishing since the full moon in Libra at the start of this month. That full moon cracked something open in the territory of relationship, reciprocity, and the honest accounting of what you give and what you receive. In the days since, the lunar cycle has been in its waning arc, which is the arc of release, of metabolizing what was revealed, of allowing the insights gathered during the bright half of the cycle to settle into something that can actually be carried forward into the new cycle that approaches. The waning crescent is the final phase before the new moon. It is the sky at its darkest. And yet there is something in this placement that is not about darkness in the sense of obstruction. It is dark in the sense of quiet, of the intelligence that becomes available when the noise has settled and the light has pulled back enough for you to stop performing awareness and simply experience it. The waning crescent in Aquarius is an especially unusual combination because Aquarius is the sign of the wider view, of the intelligence that sees patterns across time and systems rather than simply the immediate surface of things. Under this moon, with Mars and Neptune exact in Aries, the conjunction's impact is being held inside a lunar quality that asks you not to react to what arrives, but to comprehend it. The moon in Aquarius is also forming a trine to the sun in Aries. The sun is currently in the middle degrees of Aries, continuing its season of fire and forward motion. A trine between the moon and sun is a flowing aspect, a moment of alignment between the conscious and the unconscious, between the direction you are moving and the feeling life that either supports or drains that movement. Today, with the moon in Aquarius and the sun in Aries, your emotional intelligence and your conscious will are not fighting each other. They are, for these hours, in conversation. The wider perspective of Aquarius is informing the fire of Aries rather than standing in opposition to it. This is one of the reasons that what arrives today, even if it arrives through unusual channels, has the quality of something you can actually use. The fire and the feeling are speaking the same language. Venus is in Taurus. This is the most stabilizing placement in the current sky. Venus rules Taurus, which means it is in the sign of its deepest competence, operating from genuine sensory knowledge of what has real value and what does not. Venus in Taurus does not mistake intensity for importance. It knows the difference between what feels urgent and what actually matters through the long, honest measure of time and body and the deep intelligence of physical experience. In a sky where Mars conjunct Neptune could theoretically tip into either inspired vision or beautiful mirage, Venus in Taurus is the anchor. It is the part of you that knows, through something more fundamental than reason, what you are actually building toward, and whether the direction that is emerging today is aligned with that genuine knowing. Trust the body today. Trust what you feel in the simplest sensory register of your experience, not just what the mind elaborates it into. Jupiter in the middle degrees of Cancer is continuing its amplification of the emotional world. Jupiter in Cancer has been, throughout this year, expanding the interior life, deepening the relationship with what genuinely feels like home, growing the capacity for authentic belonging. Today, as Mars conjunct Neptune opens a new 2-year cycle of action meeting vision, Jupiter in Cancer adds an emotional dimension to what that cycle is being initiated in service of. The new direction forming today is not purely personal or purely strategic. It is, at its core, about what allows you to feel genuinely at home in your own life. Jupiter in Cancer is asking, when the fog lifts and the fire finds its true fuel, what are you actually burning for? And the answer it is listening for is not an ambition or an achievement. It is a feeling, a quality of life, a depth of belonging that your strategy is supposed to be in service of. The North Node remains in Pisces. The collective evolutionary direction throughout this entire nodal period is toward trust, toward the wisdom that operates through sensitivity rather than strategy, toward the kind of knowing that arrives through receptivity rather than acquisition. Neptune, which rules Pisces, is the slower planet in today's conjunction. Mars is passing through Neptune's domain. The North Node in Pisces means that the Neptunian quality of today, the vision, the dissolution, the transcendence of purely ego-driven motivation, is the direction the collective is being asked to grow toward. When your personal ambition acquires a Neptunian quality, when your fire begins burning for something that extends beyond your individual gain, you are not losing focus. You are aligning with the evolutionary direction of the entire period. Every conjunction in astrology is a beginning. When two planets meet at the same degree, they are not simply overlapping. They are beginning a new cycle of relationship between the principles they represent. Mars and Neptune meet in conjunction approximately every 2 years. Each of those conjunctions is a seed moment for the cycle that follows. The nature of the seed determines the nature of the growth, and this seed, planted today at 2 degrees of Aries, carries a quality that the Mars-Neptune cycle has not carried in a century and a half. Aries is the sign of initiation, of the original impulse, of the self before it has been shaped by the world's response to it. When Mars and Neptune conjoin here, in this sign of first beginnings, the cycle they are initiating together is a cycle of action that emerges from the original self rather than from the adapted self, from what you actually are rather than from what you have learned to perform being. Neptune's dissolving quality in Aries does not remove your identity. It removes the layers of strategic self-presentation that have accumulated over years of navigating a world that had opinions about who you should be. What remains underneath when those layers soften is not emptiness. It is the original signal, the thing that was true before the editing began. The 2-year cycle initiated today will ask you, repeatedly, to make choices from that original signal rather than from the accumulated history of who you have been expected to be. Not in one dramatic moment of transformation. In the small, daily repeated choosing of one response over another, one direction over another, one fuel source for your action over another. Each time you choose the action that emerges from genuine interior alignment, rather than from social performance or fear of consequence, you are participating in what this cycle is actually about. Historically, Mars-Neptune conjunctions in fire signs have marked periods when the collective imagination around what is possible for the individual self undergoes significant change. Today's conjunction carries those forces into a new historical moment, the personal reckoning with authentic selfhood, the dissolution of fixed identities, the question of what your fire is truly in service of. For those with significant Aries placements, particularly Aries Sun, Moon, or Rising, today's sky is arriving in the most personal territory of the chart. Mars conjunct Neptune in your sign is a conjunction occurring in your first house of identity, body, and self-expression. What this means practically is that the question of authentic selfhood is not an intellectual exercise for you right now. It is a felt, embodied, immediate experience. Things that felt like solid definitions of yourself have become more permeable. Roles you occupied comfortably have started to feel like costumes rather than core. This is not a crisis of self. This is Neptune in your sign, doing what Neptune does when it moves through the house of identity. It is showing you which parts of your self-understanding were genuinely yours, and which parts were constructions built for the purpose of navigating a world that had requirements. What remains after the softening is more genuinely you than what was there before it. Trust what is emerging from the softest and most honest place in your interior today, not because it is soft, but because it is true. For Taurus, with Venus, your ruling planet, in your own sign right now, and Mars conjunct Neptune landing in your 12th house of the hidden self, what is emerging today may be something you have known privately for longer than you have admitted. Something your body has been holding while your mind looked for the right conditions to acknowledge it. The right conditions are today. For Gemini, the conjunction lands in your 11th house of community, collective vision, and the future you are building toward with others. The impulse toward collective contribution arriving today is not coming from obligation. It is coming from somewhere deeper, from a genuine care about what happens to the world you share with others. Let that genuine care be the fuel. For Cancer, this conjunction activates your 10th house of career, public life, and vocation. Jupiter in your sign is simultaneously amplifying your emotional truth and expanding your capacity for genuine self-knowledge. The combination creates a powerful configuration for the kind of clarity about purpose that tends to arrive once in a generation. The question is not what career you want. It is what calling has been waiting beneath the career. For Leo, the conjunction falls in your 9th house of philosophy, truth-seeking, and the understanding of the world that gives your personal journey its larger meaning. Mars meeting Neptune here is a fire in the philosophical territory. It may arrive as a conversation that shifts your entire frame of reference, as a dream that carries teachings rather than simply images, as a sudden interest in a body of knowledge you have not explored before. The 9th house is where personal experience becomes wisdom. Today, the fire finds that house. For Virgo, the conjunction lands in your 8th house of transformation and depth, territory that requires complete trust in order to be entered at all. Neptune here dissolves the careful management strategies that 8th house territory so often provokes in Virgo. The invitation is to allow the dissolution, not to lose yourself in it, but to discover what is on the other side of the defensive architecture you have been maintaining. Venus in Taurus forms a trine to this degree, supporting the process with grounded sensory knowing. For Libra, this conjunction activates your 7th house of partnership and the mirror of the self that other people provide. Neptune in the 7th house has a reputation for the sense that the person across from you is a vessel for something larger. Mars arriving at Neptune's exact degree asks what you are willing to do with that sense of recognition. The North Node in Pisces is also making its influence felt here, pulling the evolutionary edge of your life in the direction of the deep and genuine merge, rather than the carefully maintained equilibrium. For Scorpio, the conjunction lands in your 6th house of daily life, health, and the habits through which you build or erode the quality of your existence over time. It asks what your daily practice is actually in service of, not the discipline for its own sake, but the genuine vision that your discipline should be building toward. The invitation is to let the vision come first and build the practice around it, rather than maintaining an old practice in service of a vision that has already changed. For Sagittarius, the conjunction activates your 5th house of creativity, self-expression, and the territory of life that exists purely for the joy of existing. With Neptune softening the boundaries between imagination and reality in the house of creative self-expression, and Mars providing the fire to bring something forward, this conjunction asks what you have been imagining that you have not yet made real. Today is the day to begin making it. For Capricorn, this conjunction falls in your 4th house of home, roots, and the interior foundation from which all outer building proceeds. Mars conjunct Neptune here is a powerful invitation to examine the emotional and ancestral ground you are building on. The question the 4th house is asking today is not what you have inherited, but what you are choosing to pass forward. For Aquarius, with the moon in your own sign today, and Mars conjunct Neptune in your 3rd house of communication and thought, there is an unusual doubling of Aquarian energy. The moon adds the emotional intelligence of the wider view. Mars conjunct Neptune in the 3rd house asks what happens when your vision of the larger pattern finds language. This is the configuration for the idea whose time has come, for the thing you have known but not yet spoken, for the communication that changes the room it enters. For Pisces, Neptune rules your sign, which means you have a particular receptivity to Neptunian energy that other signs do not. When Neptune occupies your 2nd house of resources and self-worth along with Mars, the question is what you genuinely value and whether the resources you are directing your fire toward are in service of those genuine values or in service of what you have learned to perform valuing. The North Node in your sign is simultaneously pulling your evolutionary edge in the direction of the very Neptunian qualities that this conjunction embodies. You are of all the signs most naturally aligned with what this day is offering. There is a particular kind of paralysis that comes from holding a vision and a drive that have not yet found a way to speak to each other. The vision says, I want to move towards something larger than I am currently living. The drive says, I am ready to move. And then they look at each other across a gap that feels, in ordinary time, insurmountable. The vision does not know how to produce a plan. The drive does not know what to do when there is no plan clear enough to commit to. And so they circle each other, the dream remaining a dream and the fire burning without a direction that genuinely satisfies it. That gap is what Mars conjunct Neptune is designed to close, not by providing a plan, not by resolving the practical complications, but by allowing the fire and the dream to merge long enough that they recognize themselves as the same thing. Your drive is not separate from your vision. Your action is not separate from your inspiration. These things have been held apart by the habit of sequential thinking that says, first have a clear plan, then take action. Neptune in Aries and Mars arriving at Neptune's exact degree today is saying something different. It is saying, let the action emerge from the vision directly, without the intermediate step of the plan that must be fully formed before movement is permitted. This is a different way of moving than most people have been taught to trust. It requires a tolerance for beginning without knowing exactly where you are going. It is the movement of the artist who begins making before they know what the work will be, and discovers the work through the making. The navigator who reads the current conditions and adjusts in real time rather than following a route that was planned in a different ocean. Today's sky is not asking you to abandon discernment. Saturn in Aries is still present, asking whether what you are building can hold its own weight in actual life. But Saturn's asking comes after the initial movement, not before it. The invitation of Mars conjunct Neptune is to move first from the place of genuine vision, to let the fire find the dream as its fuel source, and to trust that the discernment will operate while you move, rather than as the prerequisite to moving. As Mars moves past the exact conjunction point and begins to separate from Neptune over the coming days, the quality of the energy shifts. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but perceptibly, the thickening that characterized the approach begins to clear. The fog that Neptune cast over Mars's territory does not lift entirely. It continues to influence the energy of the coming weeks as Mars moves toward its subsequent conjunction with Saturn later in the month. But the specific quality of the approach, the sense of moving through something without being able to see through it, begins to give way to the first outlines of what the conjunction has actually been building. What you will notice in the days ahead, beginning from today, is a gradual clarification of what has been forming in your interior during this period of Neptunian influence on your drive. The vision that has been present but unclear will begin to acquire edges, not sharp edges, not the rigid definitions that Saturn will eventually ask for, but the organic outline of something that has a genuine shape. The direction that has been forming under the fog will become recognizable as a direction rather than simply a feeling. This is not a guarantee that the path will be easy or immediately obvious in every detail. Mars still has Saturn ahead of it in Aries. That conjunction, coming later in April, will be the moment when the vision that emerges today meets the honest accounting of what it actually requires. Saturn will ask questions that Neptune did not ask. Questions of structure and time and consequence and the real cost of the direction you have chosen. But those questions are only available to answer after you have a direction to bring to them. And the direction is what today is providing. The waning crescent moon in Aquarius is holding this transition with a quality of intelligence rather than emotion. Aquarius does not grieve the passing of the fog. It observes the structure that the fog was always carrying within it. The moon in Aquarius today is the witness of your own transformation, the part of your consciousness that can see what is happening and name it clearly, that can receive what the conjunction is offering without either dismissing it or inflating it into something it is not. What remains after the fog is not a blank field. It is the genuine shape of what you have been carrying all along, now visible in the particular light of a sky that has been working on your behalf for months. The fire has found its dream, the dream has found its fire, and the thing that emerges from that finding is not something new that you have to construct from scratch. It is something you already contain, arriving finally at the surface of your life where you can see it and begin, deliberately and with the particular courage that Aries always requires, to build toward it. Every major conjunction opens a window. That remains open for a particular duration. The window of the Mars-Neptune exact conjunction in Aries peaks today, April 12, 2026. The window of peak availability, where the conjunction's specific qualities most accessible and most potent, is now. What is available in this window is not a single thing. It is a range of openings, each one calibrated to where you actually are in your life, rather than where you might wish to be. The sky does not meet the idealized version of your life, it meets the actual one. The opening that is most available to you today is the opening between your vision and your action. Whatever you have been imagining but not yet moving toward. Whatever direction your interior knowing has been pointing without yet having the courage to begin following. This is the moment when the beginning does not require the full map, when the first movement is enough. The second opening is in the territory of creative expression. Mars conjunct Neptune in Aries is one of the most potent configurations for creative work that astrology offers. The fire of Mars provides the drive to make. The vision of Neptune provides the material to make from, and Aries ensures that what gets made carries the irreplaceable quality of the original self rather than the polished product of the adapted self. If there is something you have been waiting to create, today is the moment to let it begin to take form. Not to complete it, to begin it. The third opening is in the territory of authentic self-expression. Who you are when you stop performing the version of yourself that you have learned will be acceptable to the rooms you move through. Mars conjunct Neptune in Aries is asking you to act in at least one area of your life today from that original self rather than from the adapted one. This does not require grand gestures. It can be as simple as saying something true that you would normally smooth over, as simple as following an instinct that you would normally second guess. These small acts of original selfhood, practiced in the window of this conjunction, are the seeds of the 2-year cycle that begins today. April 12, 2026 will be one of those dates that those who study the sky will look back on as significant. Not because of catastrophe or sudden outward event, but because of the particular quality of interior opening that it provides to everyone who is paying attention. This kind of day does not make headlines, but it makes life changes, in the quiet way that all genuine life changes happen, through the interior shift that precedes and eventually produces the exterior one. The planet of action and the planet of dreams are meeting exactly today in the sign of the original self for the first time since your great-great-grandparents were alive. The moon is holding the wider view in Aquarius. Venus in Taurus is keeping the anchor in genuine value. Jupiter in Cancer is asking what all of this motion is in service of on the level of genuine belonging. Saturn in Aries is holding the honest accountability that will follow. Pluto in Aquarius is offering the depth of collective transformation as the context for everything personal. This is not a single note, it is a chord. And the chord is resolving today, not into silence, but into the next phrase of a piece that has been building for longer than most people have been tracking. You are inside the resolution. The fog is clearing, not because the vision was ever obscured by something external, but because the fire had to find its true fuel before it could illuminate what the vision was always pointing toward. It has found it now, in you. The exact degree has arrived. The fire meets the dream. And what emerges from that meeting is yours to carry forward through the cycle that begins in these hours and extends for 2 years through every choice you make about what your action is in service of, and whether the fire you are carrying is burning for something real. It is, trust it,